Welcome to this session. We will be learning about line charts using Data Wrapper. You are already introduced in the earlier sessions when we looked at bar graphs. Today we're going to look at line charts. Remember, you must consider the characteristics of your data and the message you want to communicate to determine which chart type will best represent your information. So don't be afraid to experiment with different chart types or combinations to find the best visualization for your specific data set. So let's dive into line charts. So a quick recap. What are line charts most commonly used for? They're most commonly used to show trends over time, so time series type of data. So things that have happened across different years. They're also very effective for visualizing quantitative data that changes continuously, such as stock prices, temperature fluctuations, or population growth. Line charts are also suitable for comparing multiple data series on the same chart, showing how they vary over time. So let's go to our trusted Data Wrapper and log in. If you don't already have an account, you can create one at this point. For our purposes, I'm just going to hit Start Creating. And I have a data set that would lend well to a line chart, which is what I'm going to upload at this time. Remember, you have the option to also link to Google Sheets, or you could also copy and paste your data. So let's find our data set. Yes, this is the one, Kenya population data, and upload that. This one is from, I think this one was from the UN census data. Then you can quickly check, much like we discussed in the previous sessions, you must check to see if your data has loaded correctly. You can scroll all the way down. There's nothing highlighted in red, so we're good to go. And if you're happy, you can hit proceed. The default chart for Data Wrapper is usually a line chart. And in our case, it's actually the chart that we want to use. So as you can see here, it has plotted the data based on what we fed it in the CSV file. And you can quickly see that the population was more or less stable. And then we continue to see population growth from around the 1940s all the way to the 2020s. All right. Now that we're happy with that, we can hit proceed. As you can see here, for the column, we have the year, which has basically this is the x-axis, the horizontal axis. And this one has the years from 1800 all the way to 2020. You can make some adjustments to suit your data. In our case, we are happy with this. It's a linear chart, the scale type. You can also introduce a custom range. So in this case, we'll just leave it as is. We can also choose whether or not to show the grid lines. The grid lines are these lines that run across the page, the graphic. I think they're fine. We can leave those on, especially depending on how your data displays. They're usually good so that your viewers, the end audience, can easily see where that line corresponds with. Just it makes it easier for the movement of the eye. So I would leave that in. Then you can always customize the line. Can change it to any color that is suitable. And avoid using colors that could be encoded or something that could mean something different. And some of the colors that you use also, if you refer back to the section on colors, it's good to be aware that people read and decode colors differently. So in some societies, red is deemed to represent danger. And in some places, especially if you're using two different lines here and one is green and one is red, for people who are colorblind, they will look like they're the same color. So those are some of the small areas that you should be aware of when you're creating your line charts, or basically all your charts. Then you can choose where the labels lie. They can either be at the top. In this case, you can put them there. Or you can put them to the right, or have none. In general, as good practice, it's always good to have the labels, especially if you want to drive attention to a specific area on the chart. So I would leave them on the right here so that it indicates what that actually is. So this is population in millions over this time period. Then you can all, depending on how many lines you have, in general, avoid having too many lines. So anything more than 6 or 7 lines would just clutter your chart. So for example, if you had an additional line here, you could change the color to match the line itself so that it's clear what you're communicating. Then also, depending on what, again, you want to communicate, some lines may be grayed out and some will be left with the color. So to communicate or to highlight the message you want to talk about. Then you can also add this points. As you can see here, there's a little dot. You can change the size of that dot by increasing it. So here it shows the 2 different points in time, 1800 and 2020. Especially if you want to highlight specific spots where there's maybe a spike, or just to show the progression on the line. Then you can also adjust the opacity of the line. So opacity here is, the point. So opacity here is the transparency of this dot, the point. So you can adjust that to suit your design needs. But for our purposes, I'll just leave it at full opacity. Then if you're happy with that, you can proceed to the next section, which is annotate. So now this is where you can start to add the title of your chart and talk a bit more about what this is about. And you can add a descriptor here that speaks more to this data. And you could say something like, the world population was steady between 1800 to about the mid 1940s, and it has steadily increased from 1940 to 2020. So just a descriptor to just say what the data is about. Then again, you can add a few notes here about the same data set. Then you can cite the source. So for example, this is census, global census data. And you can add a source, a data source here, and a byline. So a byline, again, is who has produced that chart. So you can, if you're working for a media house, you can put the information here. Or if you're a journalist, you can also put your information here. Then do not forget to include an alternative description for screen readers, because it's important for them to access information for people who are visually impaired. Then if you're happy with that, you can move to the layout. And you can enable this so that anyone who wants to use the data can easily get it by clicking get the data. So if you toggle the button to the left, you can see that disappears on this side. If you toggle to the right, if you click this, it will prompt you to actually download the data that we had uploaded in CVS format, but we can cancel that. And then you can also have the option of having an embed link. So if anyone comes here and they click embed, once you share it, you can copy. They can copy to their clipboard and add to the back end of their site. So if you have a publishing system, a content management system such as WordPress or Drupal, you can add it to the back end and it'll generate this chart on your website. And if you change the data here, you don't have to change it on the side because it's dynamic. It'll automatically change on this side as well. All right, I think I'm happy with this. And I can move on to publish and embed. If you have an account with DataWrapper, you can download it as a PNG or a JPEG that you can use on your social media or in other places. You can also print. They give you the option of printing it. So it's good to create an account so that you have that option as well. Then for this, because I hadn't created an account, I can ask it to send me an email with the link, the embed link for the visualization. And there we have it. That is our line chart. Thank you for joining me for this session. See you in the next one.